The Dog and Deuce Show is produced by Dymar Productions in association with Studio B Productions.
Welcome to Utah's longest-running sports podcast. This is Dog and Deuce. BYU keeps rolling while Utah is forced to deal with more tragedy. Plus, the Jazz are back, the NBA vaccination debate ramps up, and we preview every single game of NFL Week 5. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming your way on Dog and Deuce number 382.
From Studio B in Salt Lake City, this is Dog and Deuce. Join the conversation at doganddeuce.com or send an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to episode 382 of the Dog and Deuce Show. If you want to know more, and I sure hope you do, follow along with the show notes at doganddeuce.com.
Watch this show all weekend long on your television sets, on K-Patter TV, or if you're in southern Utah, you can watch it on Backcountry TV, or you can listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And this is episode 382. We have been off for like a month, I think.
Feels like it.
Yeah, kind of unplanned hiatus. So this show is going to be a lot of kind of recapping what we've missed, also looking ahead to the Jazz and the Utes and Cougars and all that kind of stuff. But the first thing we have to do, and there's not a whole lot we can say that hasn't been said, but obviously just a gut-wrenching, tragic story of Aaron Lowe and what happened to him. And this University of Utah football team they've just been through the ringer. I mean, between Ty Jordan and now Aaron Lowe, I don't know how. I mean, they have a game this week. I mean, it is kind of good they had a bye week when they did, but they have a game this week. I don't know how you even prepare for it. I don't know. It's a sad thing, and even as a fan who has never met Ty Jordan or Aaron Lowe, it's still gut-wrenching for me. And I don't know, James, what your thoughts were when you heard it. Obviously, it was almost unbelievable when the news came down.
Yeah, we had been off for a couple weeks at that point, and it felt like a nightmare, frankly. I mean, on the hills of Ty Jordan back in December. And I mean, not to mention that a Washington State player also got shot that night. And that there is another person who I don't think their name has been disclosed, a young lady in her 20s who is still in critical condition. I mean, the tomfoolery where the people are using gunplay as some kind of resort to end a situation as opposed to just common sense and walking away or fistfights or whatever, how it used to be. It hurts. And in that moment, these people don't recognize that the impact is far greater than just, any singular person. I mean, it extends to his family, his football team family, the fan base. It was wild, it was one of those moments where for me, it kind of brought up, like the old cliche. And the thing about cliches I've sort of determined is that, like, yeah, they're dumb and we all kind of dismiss them, but there's a lot of truth to them or they wouldn't continue to persist. Right. And that's one of those moments where if you have a wife, if you have a kid, if you have a loved one, a significant other, whatever, your mom, your dad, whoever, you just got to give them a hug and hold them a little tighter and recognize that I don't know that there was anything that I don't believe anything was done that would warrant that kind of behavior. And so, we all have to learn lessons about when behavior is right and when behavior is wrong and try to correct them. And unfortunately, Aaron Lowe doesn't get that opportunity to not go to another party, because someone thought that was the best way to end whatever sort of stupid argument was going on. It's crazy, as you sit and even just thinking of it today, I didn't really know what to say and I don't have anything planned to say on it, but it's crazy to sit here thinking that dude on the Weaver State game rolled out And he was the number 2 first. I want to point that out. He was 2, and then he was 22. So I always have a bond with all the 2s in the world, just even if it's Derek Jeter. Um, I always have a bond with all the number 2s in the world. And man, there's not much to say other than, I hope his family is getting along the best they can. And I hope the football team is. You're right. It's extremely fortunate that there was a bye. I don't know how they could have gone out and played the next week. I couldn't have.
I mean, we've seen in the past where individual players have had tragedies in their personal life. The first one that comes to mind is was it when Aaron Rodgers' dad died and he went out and threw for like 500 yards or something ridiculous. But when you have an entire team, and that was their brother. I mean, people have always, and say what you will about how the Utes have been playing this season, people have always said that it is like a family up there. And I know you hear that in a lot of teams, but it does feel a little bit more realistic, a little bit more truthful when you hear it from just the emotion that comes out of the players and the coaching staff and all that when they talk about what a family that team is. When you have your brother taken from you like that in such an abrupt way, I don't think you can take the field the next day. I mean, obviously, I would imagine they're going to dedicate this game to Aaron Lowe, but I don't know, man. I felt we did, like you said, we had a couple weeks off, and I figured by the time we came back, I would have a way to discuss this a little bit more eloquently. I still am at a loss for words. It is the definition of the word senseless. It's unbelievable to me that, and it's tragic that these teammates have to deal with this again. I mean, not even a year since Ty Jordan's passing. I don't know what they do. I think the only thing they can really try and do is, let's go get this one for Aaron. That's all you can really do. And it sucks that it's against USC because the Utes have never won there. But honestly, to me, when they take the field on Saturday, football is going to be the last thing from my mind. And I'm not even personally connected to either of those guys who passed. So I don't know, man. For them to be able to suit up and take the field is a victory in and of itself. And for the rest of the season, look, I'm still going to be screaming at the TV. I'm still going to be yelling at refs from my couch. But I don't really care what the team does at this point. The fact that they're able to even suit up and go play these games after this happened during the season, to me, is a testament to the strength that they have and the strength of the program and the leadership they have up there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, I've never questioned. Some people think it's hokey, this sort of family on 3 attitude that Utah has, but recognize like their rise up the ranks of the Pac-12 has been fairly prolific and pretty quick. They're in the conversation to win the South every year. And the only way you can I think one of the best ways, and one of the things that needs to occur to have that kind of rise and be in the running every year is the idea that there's only one way we can get through this, guys. Everyone doesn't believe it yet. No one believes it yet.
Right.
No, they mention us. They always still say like USC has more talent. The only way we can believe this is when we look in this room, the 100-odd people that are here every day know what we're doing. We're family, because that's the only way we can get through that, and that's the only way we can prove ourselves, and as far as this week, I mean, it kind of follows those lines. Like, I imagine it's something like, I know, you're hurting. You're still hurting. We're still going to be hurting for a long time, guys. This is not going to be concluded anytime in the near future, the pain and the damage that has been caused, right? But we're not going to lay there on the mat.
Right.
We got to get up. We're family. We get up for each other. And when we get on the field, it'll be hard, but it might be one of the only times where you can sort of say, hey man, we're going for 22 today. Again, let's lay it on the line. I sort of expect an inspired performance this weekend. And it sounds sort of contrarian, but if there is fate And if there is like, someone up above who's shining down on you, hopefully the ball bounces their way and they get it done. And that I think would be, and even if they don't, showing up and giving your best is good enough, right? Even if they don't, that'll be good enough. But let's hope that the sun shines on in the Coliseum on the Utes' favor this Saturday.
It might be a nice distraction for a little bit too. It might be a way. Plus, I mean, a good way to kind of work through terrible feelings is to exert yourself physically. And so there's no better way to do that than playing football. But I agree, man. I mean, we've seen, not nearly to this extent, but we've seen other, and as U fans, we've been on the other side of this where a coach gets fired or something. And so, the program's kind of tanking. This has happened with USC, I swear, like 5 or 6 times. They fire the coach the week before they play Utah. Then they come in and they beat us. It looks like, oh, we'll have them, and then they beat us. So obviously, a coach being fired is not nearly to the level of what they're dealing with right now. But I agree. If there is such a thing as fate, the Utes could get this thing. I expect to see them play inspired too, and play a little bit harder and be a little bit faster and be a little bit tougher and stronger and exert themselves a little bit more because they need to. Just personally, I think they're going to need to work through those feelings a little bit. So it might be a little cathartic for them.
Yeah, to a man, I think you're right. They'll want that on the field. And we should point out, like, although the results from, San Diego State wasn't great, there was grit.
There was.
You have to acknowledge as a Ute fan that once Campbell entered the game in the fourth quarter, it seemed different. There was fight. It seemed an unwillingness to lay down. Right. And then even in Washington State, let's be honest, that was not a home run. They had to fight for that victory. Like, there was not a 44-2 score or whatever. They had to fight for it. They had to earn it. And there was no lay down mentality in that week either. And if you're looking back, I'm expecting no lay down this week because I don't think that's what Aaron Lowe would want. And I think that's the mentality that they're going to take on is like, what would Aaron Lowe want? What would Ty Jordan want?
And it's just the fact that, I mean, they were really good friends, those two. And Aaron Lowe took the number 22 to honor Ty, and just the similarities in the death it's so unbelievably sad. And if you think of what this program has gone through just in the last year, first starting, let's go back and kind of, the disappointing season that was last year, obviously. And then obviously with Ty Jordan and how tragic that was. John Pease passes away. Charlie Brewer bails like immediately after not finishing a game. That alone, those 3 things alone are tough. And then this, I mean, it's unbelievable what these guys have had to deal with within the last year, less than a year. It's been like 10 months. So I don't expect to, but I don't want to hear anybody bitching and moaning about how they play this season. This season doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, it really does. That's what I said. The cliche, it really makes everything very crystal clear. At the end of the day, like, sure, we love football. We run a sports show.
Right.
Like, we love all sports. But at the end of the day, man, if the Utes don't win or they don't even play, while we love those moments, like, life will go on.
Life will go on. I like that. And it does. It's really sad because especially in the last year, but even like it felt like building up more and more. We're having to talk about issues that aren't sports on this show, which is not fun. I do want to mention though, the support shown from BYU and Utah State and Weber State is overwhelming and amazing. And it just goes to show you, like we talked about this a little bit. It just felt like leading up to the rivalry game, it wasn't as vitriolic. I mean, there's still a lot of hatred, not hatred, that's not the right word, but there's still a lot of vitriol, but it didn't seem as toxic as it has in years past. And then to see this, this happen and the support that these other schools, these rivals, these teams that have just battled against each other and so much bad blood over the years and over the decades. And for them to kind of put that aside, like you said, it's just football. It's just football, and it's just sports, and there are things that matter most. So it's they've gone above and beyond. It's one thing to put out a statement saying, "Oh, our thoughts and prayers are with them," but it's another thing to fly the flag and to honor these guys. And Weber State had Ty Jordan's little logo on the back of their helmets, I think, or was it on their jerseys? I can't remember. So they're going above and beyond and showing that this is one community in the state, and that's something we desperately need. It's sad that it took something like this to make it happen, but it is encouraging that it can happen, because these days you just feels like we're so at each other's throats that it's so difficult to find the positive. So that's a good thing.
Let me say one more thing, and I don't know if a determination has been made. 22 never needs to take the field again.
Agreed.
Or if they want to do it like they do at some schools for, a special player who's exceeded like expectations, like the last walk on, that would be cool. My personal preference is put it right next to the Utah on the field house. Let it be known big and loud that something was taken from the program that can never be replaced. And consequently, those numbers will never see the field again.
And I know Witt said that as long as he's coaching, no one will ever wear 22. And I haven't heard definitively one way or the other, but it sounded like the university was planning on retiring that number, as they should. So, but there is a football game to be played, and that is a good thing. It is a good way for us to kind of distract ourselves a little bit from the heavy stuff going on. And the Utes have got a tall task. They got to go into USC, a place they have not won. I know they haven't since being in the Pac-12. Have they ever won in the Coliseum?
Yeah, I'm not super flow, but I think it's like 1908 to 1920. Okay. Somewhere in there, they popped a victory.
Okay.
Like somewhere. It's been 100 years is what I'm saying. A century is a long time.
No one alive to remember it. So,
well, I don't know.
Maybe
I saw there was a 114-year-old person alive.
Wow.
That still doesn't. I think he's the oldest World War II veteran.
Wow.
114. So that gets him close, if my math is correct.
Well, it would be poetic if the Utes went in there and surprised some people. I mean, they're only 3-point underdogs. And USC is going through some turmoil too, but they always are. Every single year they're going through turmoil. They're having coaching issues and stuff like that and distractions off the field. But every year we see why they are USC, at least when the Utes play them, because when you think we should roll over them, they still prove that they are the most talented athletes in the conference. Maybe Oregon, but I mean, that's a big maybe. They just don't have someone at the helm that's really able to steer the ship until they get Urban Meyer in there, which I fully expect to happen pretty soon.
Yeah, Urban's struggling down in Jacksonville.
We got to talk about him later on,
with
too.
The news of what occurred this weekend, he's not looking too great in the eyes of a lot of people. Here's the thing, though. I mean, and we didn't get to talk about it. I think the firing of Clay Helton was a mistake.
Agreed.
I mean, especially the timing-wise. Like, at least ride it out, because you're not going to get a coach right now. USC is going to go for a big coach. No one's going to leave a position unless they're a lower, Division II or Division III to come to USC. And that's already understood. So why do that? What do you have to lose?
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, far be it for me to question an AD, because that only gets, media access. But I mean, it makes no logical sense why you wouldn't let them play it out and see if they can remedy something. And you're right. Slovis is hurt. Dart comes in back and blows it up. That's a Utah boy. Let's not forget. That's a Utah kid. But it seems like it's going to be back to Slovis. I don't know for sure, but I mean, you're right. Like, USC is talented at every position. They're as talented, maybe with the exception of Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State. They're going to be right there as far as star recruits. They're struggling to put it together on the field and be a family, right? That's kind of the feeling, at least that I get from the outside looking in, is that USC has all the talent, but they don't have the internal makeup to recognize what will make them successful. And I don't know if that's from the top or it's probably both, from the top and in between the players, internal dissension. But look, there have been years where I thought Utah would win. The Troy Williams year,
Right.
the past. Like I thought that would be a good year for them to pull it off, and they didn't. And even with Snoop, I thought they'd get a W here or there, just on pure statistics.
Right.
Why statistics bug me. Like we're in the statistical zone of anomalies. Like how hasn't
big time. Big time.
how hasn't the ball bounced our way one of these 5 times? So, and that in combination with everything Utah's going for, the sense of family, the sense of, circle the wagons. I like their chances, man.
Dude.
I really do.
So we make our predictions for every game. And before the show, I wrote down 31-20 USC. I am so tempted. I'm like this close to just flipping those scores and going 31-10 Utah. Because I think you've talked me into it, dude.
Well, that's good to know. I have some convincing power in life.
I'm doing it. I'm flipping it right now. 31-10 Utah.
31-10. That's good. I think they're going to give up some big plays because Utah will. Because USC has great receivers. And when in doubt, just throw it and let them go get it. So my score is 27-23. And Utah? I think it'll be 27-23 Utah. And I think it will be tense the last 5 minutes of the game. I think it'll be gripping your seat like, oh, man, we need this. We need this. We're going to lose this. We're going to lose this. And then I think they pull it out in the end.
That could
probably by a Devin Lloyd play, if I had to guess.
Honestly, could be. Or safety play because sure. Aaron Lowe. I mean, that could be the Aaron Lowe effect right there. This game is 6 p.m., so thank God it's not a late one. It's on Fox, national TV. The storyline is going to be Aaron Lowe. There's no doubt. So let's get the victory, man. You convinced me. I'm not confident in my score, 31-20, but I think you convinced me. Utah's going to do it. Dude, if there's ever a year, and it seems like we say this every single year that we play at USC. I think we do. We're like, it's never going to happen again. This is the best chance they're going to have. And I don't even think their chances, like when you look at it on paper, I don't think they have a good chance. But just the fact that they're dealing with so much adversity and they need some sort of moral win, some sort of, I don't want to say pick me up because that implies that there's something, that this is just a minor thing. They need some morale boost to help them, kind of come together as a family. And I could see this being the thing because that's the one hurdle other than winning the Pac-12 championship. Beating USC on the road is like the one hurdle they haven't overcome since being in the Pac-12. So I could it'd be very poetic for them to do it.
Yeah, it could be one of those moments where it's like, okay, everything's going to be all right. Let's go.
Yes, exactly.
It's going to be it's going to be the jumping off point to seeing something spectacular, or it's just going to be ho hum. And either way, like we said, is okay. But to me, I either see it being like, again, the jumping point of win it all for Aaron, and I think they'll think that
for sure.
I'm not trying to say that they won't, or it'll catch up to them. Time will tell. But I'm excited to watch on Saturday to see.
It'll be cathartic for sure, no doubt. Let's move on to BYU Boise State. So BYU, and props to them. I mean, at the beginning of the year, and I will take full brunt of this. At the beginning of the year, let's see what I predicted them to win. It was not good. I said that it could be a very long season for BYU. I picked them to go 6-6. That's looking pretty stupid right now. Even hardcore BYU fans, I'm not sure they had them at 5-0 right now. I mean, if they were being honest, I would say the best that they could have had them, I'd say 3-2 at the beginning of the season if you were predicting these first 5 games. Apparently, BYU just doesn't play on the road anymore.
That's helpful if you can arrange it.
It is. Last week was their first road game. Think about that. Week 5, it's their first road game, and it's at Utah State where BYU always travels. Like, their fans always travel. So it's a little bit easy. I don't want to say easier, but they have a little bit more of an advantage than most road teams do. But it's up in Logan. Like, it's an easy trip. So it was a road game. It was very hostile. There's a lot of controversy on what's going on between the players and the student section. BYU players were taunting and throwing water on the student section. So then the student section decided to retaliate by throwing garbage all over him. And then, like, as a Utah fan, this is kind of fun to see that, like, this type of anger is not happening with my school for once. Usually it's like Utah and BYU. But now, and here's the thing, BYU's in the position that Utah fans have been in the position for a while where it's not a real rivalry, trying to just like really beat their chest. But I will tell you right now, if you look at BYU and Utah State and don't think it's a rivalry, then you're not paying attention. This thing is, this was harsher than Utah BYU this year. Way harsher.
You're absolutely right. And let's be honest. If little brother isn't bugging you, you don't throw water on him, right? That means they're under your skin. I mean, they injured some quarterbacks, right? I mean, we got to know. I don't know how that quarterback situation is going to play out for BYU versus Boise State this week. No idea, right?
Well, I heard that it's all three quarterbacks are good to go, from what I heard.
Right, but man, you may be good to go, but you obviously came out of the game.
True.
The chance for re-injury on any kind of hit, which is shocking because Utah State was getting a little more pressure than I expected, to be perfectly honest.
They were.
In the bits and pieces I looked like. And the score may not feel like it, but Utah State was in that game. Utah State's bugaboo is hold on to the ball and you have a shot in every game they've played. And even the ones they didn't hold on to the ball, they still had a shot.
Right.
So, I mean, Utah State has competed, and I mean, we were harsh on ourselves for BYU, but let's just remember we had the over, and it's not quite settled yet on Utah State, but it feels like it will be.
So,
right?
National media picked BYU, or I should say Vegas picked, or not BYU. They picked Utah State to win 3 games this year. You and I both said they win 3 easy. I think we both picked them 5-7. So they are almost there. I mean, they could have had it against BYU. Boise State, here's the thing. They moved the ball against Boise State. They didn't look bad against Boise State. They just couldn't score, and they kept turning the ball over. On one play, they had a field goal blocked twice. The first one was a penalty, so it didn't count. They re-kick it, and it's blocked again. It's crazy, man. Like, you can't make this up. But the fact, like, that could have been for a lot of programs and a lot of head coaches out there, they could have been dealing with a team that gives up after that, especially considering last season and what happened with Gary Anderson and Jason Shelley and all that kind of stuff. It would have been real easy for them to say, okay, well, we did better than we thought we'd do this early in the season and lay it up. But they still played hard and fought against BYU up until the final buzzer. So you got to give them something.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, they got 3 wins right now, right? Like 3 wins coming off last season with a new head coach. And you can see that there's a possibility, if you're a Utah State fan, that you could technically be 5-0, right? Like, or at least 4-1 very easily. I mean, they outgained Boise State substantially. How often do you outgain them in yardage by 100 yards or more and lose? There's only one way. It's called turnovers.
Yep.
Right? So we've set our mea culpas to BYU, but let's see, Boise State obviously knows how to turn the ball over. BYU is a top 10 program, so they're going to be ready. Right? I mean, this will be another unique game where, let's be honest, and BYU's had a little more success when they were in the Mountain West as well as afterwards, with victories over Boise State. Utah, not so much, whether it's the bowl game or the few years before that. And that's now like 8 years ago. But it's a challenge every time, and it's close. And we've seen Boise State have the ability to turn over teams and still win tight games, even though they're maybe not what they were over the past few years. It's going to be, like you say, for me, a road game, if you don't have to get on a plane and you can drive less than 3 hours, probably not really a real test of a road game.
Right.
Which is what the one BYU has. Now you're going up to Boise. You're going up to Idaho.
No, it's in Provo.
Oh, is it in the Bell?
Yeah.
I apologize.
Another home game, dude. Another, like in 6 games, they've had one road game, and it's kind of a road game. I mean, environment-wise, it was very hostile. Like, it's as hostile as you're bound to see this year. But you don't have to deal with all the travel and all that kind of stuff that goes along with it, which is a big part of it. So
for sure, it adds moving pieces, right? Moving pieces to the equation always make it harder. And look, I know you've told me that the quarterback position seems solid. If they stop the run, though, which isn't hard, if Boise State stops the run, okay, it will be interesting to see whether it's Romney or Hall or whomever, if they can get it done in a passing manner. Because really, let's be honest, like, sure, BYU's hit some big plays in the passing game from the games I've seen, but they were open by 30 yards.
Right.
In a lot of cases, right? So if you can stop the run with 8 or 7, it may make it a little more likely that the quarterbacks make a few mistakes, and that's how Boise's going to have to win. I mean, let me ask you this. Do you believe that BYU is a top 10 team in the country?
That is a tough question. I've actually been thinking about that quite a bit because it's easy to say no, but then when I watch them play, they don't get everything right on every single play. But they look like a team that believes they are a top 5 team, if that makes any sense. The way they carry themselves, the way they execute, the way, even when plays break down, the way they're able to recover. It reminds me of BYU in the olden days. It reminds me of what we used to see back in the Lavelle days, and even a little bit in the Bronco Mendenhall days. If you would have asked me last year if I thought they were a top 10 team, I did not think they were last year. This year, I think they're legit. I really do. They played some tough teams, tough defenses. They played Utah's defense, and they look great. They've had injuries at key positions, and they've still won. They've overcome adversity. They've won 2 rivalry games. This team, I believe in this BYU team more than I have believed in a BYU team in a very long time. I'm not saying they're top 10 because a lot of weird things have happened this year so far with teams losing, but they're pretty close. If they're not, they're definitely top 15, legitimately, I think.
See, for me, I'd say they're somewhere between 15 and 20, personally.
Interesting. So what is keeping them out of the top 10 for you?
I mean, you can't keep them out because they're undefeated, right?
Right.
That's just the nature of the way the polls work. But I mean, if you honestly, and I'd have to look who's ahead of them and who's slightly behind them. But I mean, I wouldn't take them versus Oregon, wouldn't take them versus Ohio State, and even Clemson, despite their struggles. I'm not saying it would be a blowout, but I wouldn't take them, right? And even on a neutral field, maybe I'd give them a slight advantage on a home field, but on a neutral field or on the road, those are teams that I wouldn't. Arkansas, same thing. A&M, I mean, no, I don't think they're better than them. Their record may be better than those teams, but those teams have played a little harder schedule. I'm not here rallying on BYU's schedule because it's been pretty good for the first 5 weeks, but it's not Arkansas's playing Texas A&M. You know, it's not SEC schedule. It's not Big Ten schedule. It's not Ohio State playing Oregon. So for those reasons, while their schedule is better than it was last year, and they've done everything they can do, I think if you truly evaluate it, they're more in the 15 to 20 range. But I don't have a problem with them being top 10. I just, in actuality, I think they're probably more in that range.
Well, up to this point, they basically played a Pac-12 schedule.
For sure.
2 out-of-conference games.
Aren't they?
What's that?
They're leading the South. I mean, and let's not forget, if Tyler Algier doesn't go Superman in that Arizona State game, the outcome may be different.
Could be. So let me read the top 10. And we got Alabama, Georgia, Iowa. At 4 is Penn State. 5 is Cincinnati. Then Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, and BYU. There are some teams that I would put BYU ahead of on that.
Who's behind them, though? Who's 11 through 15?
Okay, 11 through 15. Michigan State, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Notre Dame, and the old foe, Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, see, I think they're more in that Coastal Carolina uh, range. I
Yeah,
mean, I get why. I mean, it'd be hard for me to put them over Ohio State or Oregon,
it'd be tough. That'd be really tough.
but they've
Yeah.
had a lot of home games. So
That's the other thing. That's the one thing where I'm like, we'll see when they got to go to Baylor, and they got to go to, well, not Washington State, but Virginia's coming here. I mean, really, it's Baylor and USC are like the two road games that are a little concerning. And USC, with the dumpster fire they are right now, who knows?
right. I mean, and that Virginia game's interesting because that's Bronco returning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he could be a real spoiler there, depending on the record at that
He
point
could be,
in time.
but I don't think Virginia's as good as they have been in recent years. That's the thing. I think this is the time to catch them, and it's at home. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't see them going undefeated, but it's in the realm of possibility. I don't even, you know what? I shouldn't have brought it up because I hate it when you're early in the season and you're already starting to talk about undefeated seasons. It drives me crazy. Let's wait until we get to week 9.
Okay.
Then we can start talking about undefeated season and what should happen if that happens, because I don't want to do that yet. Okay, Utah State, they have a...
Wait, we got to make a pick.
Oh, we got to make a pick. Sorry. You do the honors.
Man, it's going to be tight, I think. I mean, if this is a blowout one way or the other, I'm shocked. And BYU has had a propensity to pull it out. My gut tells me Boise State, but for the listeners, I'm going BYU.
BYU.
I'm going to go 24-21 BYU. The offense has slowed down a little bit in some ways. So
they have, but they've also had a lot of ups and downs at quarterback position. Like they've had a lot of changing at that spot. So it's been a little iffy, but I think BYU is going to roll over them. Boise State this year, I've watched a couple Boise State games. They are not as good as we expect them to be. This is a down year for them. And this is a rivalry too. And this could be a little biased because I'm a Utah fan. Boise State is my most hated team. I've made no secret of that. Even in my young years when I had a lot of disdain for BYU, I still hate Boise State more than I ever hated BYU back in those days. So it could be biased talking, but they are not as good as they usually are. And I just see BYU, they're playing with so much confidence right now that even if they take a couple hits early on, I still see them trouncing them. I got 33-17 Cougars.
Can we consider, I sort of think we can we consider Utah State like the Jazz, but in the negative way? All things that BYU, Cougars, Utes, and Aggies can agree on is that they hate Boise State.
Yes.
Like they like the Jazz
Yes.
for the most part, right?
Yes.
They're like the negative side of the Jazz aspect that we always talk about. And I agree with you. I've never liked them, never wanted to. Probably a lot of that is from the Statue of Liberty play where they won versus Oklahoma and Utah didn't get their just due because we played Pitt. A lot of that is that. But even before that, they just bug me. So,
dude, it's a blue field. Come on, man. I like Coastal Carolina's field more than I like Boise State's field. Like, you cannot have a blue field. Sorry.
I like any of them. I think they all should have to be green. That's me.
Isn't there a red one out there?
Yeah, Eastern Washington has a red and a black. I think it's black this year. I don't like any of it. I think it should be illegal to do that, but what do I know?
I'm with you, man. I hate it. I don't like any of it. Okay. That kind of concludes our college football talk. We got so much to talk about, man. It's insane. We got to move into the NBA. The Jazz have started preseason games. I don't know if you heard this, James, but apparently that first preseason game wasn't on TV.
Son of a gun.
No, I'm joking, but it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. The TV, I mean, AT&T Sportsnet sucks. They've always sucked. It's kind of crazy to me that this is still a thing, but I think they're finishing out their contract. I don't think they re-signed a new contract with them this season. I think they were just finishing out the current contract they have with AT&T Sportsnet. I could be wrong. I don't know, but it's a terrible network. They preempt Jazz games for regular season baseball games, which is insane. It's crazy, man. And now to top it off, Dish Network has dropped AT&T Sportsnet. Now, I know, and I understandably so. If you're a Dish fan, and God bless the people on those guys on the radio like Spence and all these other guys who have to do these remotes with the Dish Network people. And God bless those Dish Network, because they're resellers. They don't actually work for Dish Network. They just sell it. God bless them, because they got to somehow right now promote that when it's very toxic here in Utah, because they have dropped AT&T Sportsnet. One thing I will say, don't panic yet, because this kind of stuff happens all the time with TV providers. It's stupid. I don't understand the ins and outs, but I've just never understood how the TV providers, especially in this day and age, have a leg to stand on when they're trying to renegotiate deals with these stations. Because do you remember like a couple years ago, Comcast dropped KSL? This isn't even like a cable station. This is a network station, and they just dropped KSL. And and they have Sunday Night Football, and just regular programming that people love. So this kind of stuff happens all the time. So don't panic yet. I'm sure they'll be back, but I don't know how these cable providers and dish providers have a leg to stand on when people are cutting the cord left and right. They have no room to stand. Like, customers are just going to leave because you don't have my Jazz games. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, the TV stations are, in my estimation, and both of them probably are playing like trying to leverage petty capitalism. And really the only people they're hurting are the people they're trying to provide a service for.
Exactly.
It's weird. And maybe I'm just not into enough big money deals to understand what's worth it and what's not. But from the outside looking in, it sure looks stupid. It really does.
If you're covering live sports, that's the absolute only thing that has not gone totally streaming right now. Like local sports. If you want to, like, you can't just watch the Jazz streaming unless you do it illegally. So that's the only thing that cable and dish companies have to keep customers at this point. That's it. So I understand why they want to do it, but also if you drop a station that carries it, they're just going to go to another provider.
Exactly.
That's why I just don't understand it. But again, I don't know the ins and outs of this stuff. I'm not a corporate guy, so who knows? But the Jazz did play in a preseason game that was televised last night against the Mavericks. And I'll just say this. I know everyone's freaking out about Jared Butler, and I understand why. Because Jared Butler, there were times, like I had it on and I was kind of making dinner for the daughter and kind of hanging out, and I forgot that Donovan wasn't playing. And Jared Butler had a couple plays that looked exactly like Donovan Mitchell. I thought it was him just watching from afar, and I had to remind myself, no, dude, that's number 13. He's our rookie. So if you can keep him healthy, there's a lot to be excited about, I think, with him. That said, let's not get overly excited about a preseason game, because it is just a preseason, and they lost, but it doesn't matter. All the young guys played. So, but Jazz basketball is here. That's what I'm excited for. That's all I really want to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And let me be clear. I watched the Aces versus the Mercury game and baseball because it mattered. And I was watching sort of the Twitter timeline about Dudley and the highlights I saw. Like, I even, thought for a minute, I'm like, wait, Donovan's playing? But he'll have to earn that. It's preseason. Sure. He'll have to earn those minutes, and when it matters in the regular season, and even furthermore, if he ever gets the opportunity to play during crunch time. So while it's nice and it's something to be optimistic about, I literally, the only thing I care about from preseason, the only thing I care about, and look, what's the injury report?
Exactly.
That is literally
that's all you need.
The only thing that matters. They could lose every game by 35 points. And if none of the starters and none of the first 8 essentially players have any nicks or bruises, it's a victory. It's a victory.
I agree.
It's a long season, man. And injuries have derailed last year a little bit. And in the past have derailed mid-season, whether it's Rudy or Donovan or Joe. That's all that matters is health. Yep. The Jazz have proven they can do it. They were the number 1 seed last year. So going forward, I encourage Jazz fans, and what I'm going to try to work on is not to get too high, because we've seen it. This tape has been played. We can rewind it and play it again, and it won't matter till April and May and, Lord willing, June.
Fall.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the fall from the top hurts pretty bad. Last year and the year before that, those hurt. As much as any playoff loss ever, those two hurt. I think more, not more, but as much as any other one I've ever experienced. So still getting over it at this point.
No doubt.
So I agree with you. But it was fun to see the young guys out there. The only starter that even played was Royce O'Neal. And even Jordan Clarkson played for a little bit. But it was fun to see the young guys playing small ball, by the way. Eric Pascal was playing center, and I think he's 6'6". And they were playing against the starters for the first half of the Dallas Mavericks, and they were running up and down the floor on them. So that, again, don't get overly excited, but it's just fun to see these young guys running up and down the court. I have really enjoyed it. It was as much fun as I've had watching a preseason game in a long time.
Yeah, and the thing I'm sort of looking forward to and interesting, and this is an unreasonable expectation, is, look, Pascal played with Draymond Green. How close can he be to what Draymond Green is? Because I've maintained that Draymond Green is the glue to the Golden State Warriors. People have laughed at me for 7 years. I'm going to stick with it because I've gotten this far. Why go back? I don't think I'm wrong yet. How close can he be to Draymond Green for the Jazz? And he doesn't need to be the crazy leader. Like, we don't need all the antics.
Right. That doesn't help.
Draymond Green. Right. We need the Draymond Green we hear about in the huddle, in the locker room, at practice. And that'll take him some time to have that voice. But if he's progressing on the floor, I think it helps the Jazz infinitely and allows him to sort of step into that.
Agreed. I think he can do it too. I think it'll be fun to see. Just seeing the young guys get some minutes, I really enjoyed that. So, but speaking of Draymond Green, we got to talk a little bit about the vaccination, and we got 10 minutes left. So we'll blaze through this unless you want to go long, because we got to talk NFL too. So the vaccines have become a hot button issue in the NBA. You got Kyrie Irving, who, I mean, he's Kyrie Irving at this point. Andrew Wiggins said that he was not going to get the vaccine, but has relented. And I think it was pretty strongly suggested to him that he needs to get vaccinated as to not mess up the Warriors' potential return to greatness. And so he sucked it up and got the first shot. So that's good. And Draymond Green said some stuff, and I was going to play the clip, but we don't really have time now, and basically said, I'm not going to pressure the guy. He can do what he wants to do. I'm going to get vaccinated. It's a nice thought, but it's also entirely wrong, I think, because we're not talking about an elective surgery. We're talking about a choice that could have potential negative consequences to other human beings. And I'm not going to get into the whole vaccine thing, but if you get vaccinated, you're not going to spread it. That's all I'm going to say. And so that's why I think Draymond Green was completely off the mark. But here is the other thing that I think probably will cause a problem. And this is from DraftKings Nation report. NBA players could face criminal charges if quarantine is breached in Canada. So this is Lou Williams in the bubble going to get chicken wings at a strip club. No more of that. You got to be quarantined. If you're going to go play in Canada, you have to strictly abide by the quarantine procedures that are laid out for you. Canada's not messing around. So Kyrie Irving, I don't know. I don't even know if he's going to play. I don't even know what's going to happen with Kyrie. That's one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, with Kyrie, I don't know if you saw the news come down yesterday. Brooklyn essentially said, let us know when you're ready to come back and you're vaccinated. And I was listening to the rundown. Like, he could play, I think, tonight or Monday. They have a game in Philadelphia. It's a road game. He could play in that game. He hasn't seen the team in 14 days because they practice in New York and he's in New Jersey. That doesn't have the same sort of, regulations. So he hasn't even seen the team, right? I don't care how good you are. You got to play together. But even further, they open the season with a 6-game homestand with which he won't be able to play. He won't be able to practice unless the team moves everything to New Jersey just for him. And okay, I'm not denying Kyrie's a baller. But when you have Kevin Durant and James Harden on your team, you can't be saying we're moving it around. You're opening Pandora's box to the level that is just absurd. I mean, let's be honest. Kyrie's dope. If I had to choose between Kyrie and either of those players, I'm going with James Harden or Kevin Durant.
You're damn right.
See you, love you, you're balling.
Because even as much of as a frustration as Jazz fans have with James Harden, those two are not going to give you the headaches that Kyrie Irving is going to give you. Like, this is kind of what he did last year. How is this any different if he doesn't play home games? Like, he barely played last year. And then you look what happened when they got to the playoffs. Because
it showed.
Yes, exactly. You have to be a cohesive unit. You have to have reps together. You have to have taken the floor together. If you don't, you're gonna lose in the playoffs. And they are the overwhelming favorite right now to take the title. The overwhelming favorite. And if I am the Brooklyn Nets, I am so pissed off at him, and I'm so frustrated. And because he's just, it's one thing, the Earth is flat. It's stupid. You're an idiot, but also it doesn't hurt anybody. Go have your fun. Think you're really smart. Do that whole thing where you're superior to everybody else. That's fine. Do that. But when you're actually doing something like this, not only are you potentially hurting the team in their success, but you're potentially hurting other human beings. So I am so frustrated to find the Brooklyn Nets right now.
Well, not just that. I mean, pull up the roster. There's Patty Mills. I mean, James Harden literally put his reputation on the line to get to Brooklyn.
Yep.
And it wasn't to goof off. It was to get rings.
Right.
I mean, think about James Harden last year. Like, we were like, bro, you're going to strip clubs, throwing money at people. Like, he did all that to have the literal best opportunity to challenge the elite in the West to get a ring. And Patty Mills, like, why does Patty Mills, leave? I want another ring. I'm about rings. I'm from San Antonio.
Right.
And there's more people on their roster. They have a whole bunch of vets who are going there to try to get their first ring or add to the collection. And if you're willing to and these people sacrifice money,
right?
Their money,
right?
They could have made more. Patty Mills could have made more money. I don't have his contract in front of me, but based on the salary cap and just a generic understanding, I'm positive he could have gone and played for Charlotte and probably made a few more $1 million. And he said, no, man, I'm about rings. I've made enough money. I mean, the level of frustration just on that, like, really? You want me to give you, we all gave you your space when you talked about flat earth and it didn't come out at you hard.
Right.
But now, man, you're starting to mess with my rings. You're starting to mess with my livelihood. You're starting to really piss me off. Forget about it. You can be an anti-vax, whatever, but now your decision, not only from a medical perspective, but from a professional.
Right.
I mean, there's no joke. People care about their legacy. They care about their careers, especially when you're Kevin Durant.
Look,
he didn't get it done last year. He wants to prove to everyone, I can be the leader of a super team and win.
Kyrie Irving has had some incredible moments on the court. He has, in the playoffs, in the postseason, he has done some amazing things. He should have a legacy at this point alone. Right now, though, his legacy is a laughingstock.
True. I mean, I wish someone would grab him and be like, hey, man, you're a baller. And sure, you're a thinker. You're out there being curious, trying to explore thoughts. And
which
whatever.
Is good. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. But at some point, you just got to do. Thinking only gets you so far without action. Unless you're Socrates or someone.
Right.
Who, and so the thought and being curious is great. I try to encourage that in everyone I know, my children included. But if you don't put the thought into action, it's kind of pointless.
That's the frustrating. Like, it's good to go out there and question what you hear. That's a good, healthy attitude to have. And I think everyone should do that to an extent. But the problem is when every single point of this anti-vax stuff is easily debunked, like easily, it's not even hard to find this stuff. At some point you have to realize, okay, maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe I'm being bullheaded. And we'll just say that. Maybe not stupid, but maybe I'm just being too stubborn at this point. I bought in too much and it's a lost cost fallacy. I don't know, but he's going to cause them a lot of problems. And so I don't expect you to have any inside information, but just knowing what you know about Kyrie Irving, what do you think he's going to do? You think he's going to bite the bullet?
I really can't say, because he always walks back like the flat earth when it gets too tough.
Right.
But last year, like you say, he had a lot of in and out of the lineups dealing with personal stuff. We're not really clear on what those were, except in some cases, I think it was his grandma or his mom who was sick. it's hard to gauge. He is, man, you thought Ron Artest was a wild card. At least you would know how he would deal with it. This, you really don't. I mean, Ron Artest would never walk away from a basketball game in Rucker Park, let alone an
Right.
NBA game, you know?
Right.
So we know that about him. He might act the fool, but he's not walking away. Kyrie Irving is willing to walk away and not play and not fulfill. I mean, let's be honest, call it what it is, not fulfill his obligation, man. You signed a contract, period. End of discussion. You're not fulfilling one obligation any which way you cut it. I would say eventually. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. Like, imagine if the Nets just start out in fuego and they go like 21-2. Do they cut him or trade him? Like, dude, we don't
Probably.
need you know? And then they get something more. I mean,
if you think about it, all these other players bought in. All these other players are there, showing up, doing their part. And we have this one guy, because he's good, he's holding us hostage essentially. So I think they do. Even though I don't know how much trade value he'd even have.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to send him to Texas or Florida.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, or I mean, a place like that. And even then, I don't know that you get equal return because they think he's going to be a headache. There would have to be a lot of work. So I don't know if he has a no trade clause in his contract. I mean, he's an elite enough player that that's a possibility. It's just at some point, man, if you actually care about people like he seems to indicate he does and these causes, then you have to be willing to put your petty shit aside and show it.
Agreed.
And right now, and look, I mean, I struggle with this in my life. It's something I work on all the time, you know, like right now, you're holding on to, like, I would consider it foolish pride. He's holding on to some foolish pride. It's most of the civilized world is looking at him saying, all right, dude. And his teammates are like, all right, dude. And Steve Nash is like, all right, dude, have fun in Jersey. You know, I'd rather be in the Bronx or in Brooklyn, have fun in Jersey. And you just hope that someone or he comes to his senses before. I mean, that team could be special. They could challenge 73 if they're together.
They could.
That's a crazy thing to say, but they could challenge the Warriors record.
There's no doubt. Title. Yep, it's true. That's it for the TV show. You good to stay a little bit longer and preview football?
Let's make these picks and get out the door, man. Let's do it.
All right. If you want to hear our preview of NFL Week 5, we're going to pick every single game. James is beating me this season in our little challenge that we do every year. He's actually beating me for the first time in 11 years. So you're definitely going to want to hear that. So if you are watching on TV, head over to doganddeuce.com, head over to any of your podcast apps, head over to youtube.com/DD on sports, and you can watch our preview for NFL Week 5. Okay, my man, you're not up by a lot, but I'm trying to think, have we ever been this far in the season and you've been up on me?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I struggle early season, man.
Yeah, you usually make your push towards the end of the season, and then it's usually too late.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, if you make a push later on, I'm toast. I'm not going to lie. Right now, it's already feeling like I'm kind of toast. Like, we're only week 5, and I have an extra week this year, too.
That's true. I could have used those extra weeks the last 3 or 4 years.
True. So, so last week, and even though we have not been recording, I've still been keeping track of our picks. And I've been tallying them all up and everything. So last week I went 10-6, and you went 11-5. And that's the thing. Like, you're beating me by like 1 every single week. And I think 1 week we tied. Nah, so you are up 3 games on me. I am 41-23. You are 44-20 on the season. Damn, dude. This is weird. What a weird year. Think about it. First of all, you are beating me in football. Second of all, Utah's playing awful. BYU's undefeated, and BYU won the rivalry game. This is a strange year. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I want to reset the clock a little bit.
Let's start it over. Turn it around, man.
Before we jump in, is there anything you want to say about Urban Meyer?
Herb. Come on, buddy. Herb, don't do it. I don't. Was he at a club or was it just a friend?
I think he was at a club, and I don't really know the exact story, but if you haven't heard, I'm sure you have. He was filmed. There was some young girl kind of grinding on him at a bar or at a club or something, and it looked like he was drunk, really enjoying himself, and whatever. Like, it's that in and of itself is not a bad thing. I mean, it's not good because he's married. That's the big thing there. But I'm not gonna harsh on people for making mistakes because God knows I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. But that on top of all the other stuff that's gone down in Jacksonville and they're 0-4, like it feels, and I don't want to read too much in it. It feels like he's trying to get fired.
Kind of.
That's how it feels to me. It feels like he's trying to get the boot so we can go take the USC job.
At the very least, the pressure is mounting.
Definitely.
I don't think Urban had any grandiose expectations that they were going to be like 12-4,
right.
But 0-4 is not what Urban Meyer's used to anywhere. But regardless, I mean, again, I don't try to criticize people's decisions because Lord knows I've made terrible ones. And
right.
That's the way of life. And he said all the right things, but man, it's a bad look. When you're married and you claim to be a family man, it's a bad look.
It's a very, very bad look. And I think the surprising thing about this is I don't think he was prepared for how difficult losing would be for him because he's not used to it. Everywhere he's gone, he's won.
But it's weird because he quit Florida and they barely lost. He said the losses would eat me.
Yeah, right.
So he knows even losing like 2 games a year and being in the title contention was so much it like affected his physical health.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of confusing going to Jackson. I mean that, we all have egos. Maybe his ego is a little big on that one.
Well, I think he thought he'd get Trevor Lawrence and be, maybe he thought it'd be a little bit of a project, but I don't think he expected to be 0-4 right now.
No doubt.
Okay, let's go through this though. Thursday night, Rams at Seahawks. Who you got?
Rams at Seahawks, hard one, right? Divisional battle. These ones are always toss-ups. It's in Seattle.
Yep.
They have some injuries, which I'm concerned about. Carson, a defensive lineman. I got the Rams.
I do too. That was a tough one.
That was. To open the week, that was a tough pick, no question.
Jets at the Atlanta Falcons, and Trevor Lawrence is losing, and here's Zach Wilson coming out of the gate looking like a baller last week.
Yeah, it's same old Atlanta Falcons. The Jets, I mean, let's be clear. Javelin Guidry made the tackle that probably saved the game.
He did.
Henry was going to romp, I think, if not to a touchdown, close to a touchdown. Javelin Guidry made the tackle that saved the game. I'm going with the Falcons, though. I just don't know if the Jets can put it together back-to-back weeks.
That's my thoughts exactly. Like the Jets are such a dysfunctional organization that if they win 2 in a row, I will be shocked.
No question.
Denver at Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, Denver has played well, but they also haven't played anybody. Pittsburgh is not. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger does not look good.
Yeah, the line doesn't look good. He's trying to, instead of throw it away and live another down, he's trying to be Ben Roethlisberger from 10 years ago, which he's not, right? And he needs to learn a little more from Tom Brady, move in the pocket and just make the outlet pass to get 3 yards or throw it away. Having said that, and you're right, Denver, Teddy Bridgewater, they've won some games that I didn't expect them to. Vic Fangio's defense is playing great. If the line can give a minimum of protection, I'm going with Pittsburgh. But I'm not confident. That was a 50-50 pick for me.
Me too, and I went Pittsburgh too. That was a tough one. I mulled over that one for a while. Detroit at the Minnesota Vikings. Detroit is, I mean, they're Detroit, It's even with Matthew Stafford, they still can't seem to get it together. I think the Vikings are going to win this one at home.
Yeah. Let's be clear, though. They've put up fights, and they've made close games.
True.
Detroit can score in times. And it's Goff at the helm, so he's got a chip to prove. The problem that I saw is the center.
Oh yeah, what did I say? Did I say Matthew Stafford? I'm living in the past, man.
Still around, yeah. We all love to. The center's out. Ragnow, I think, is his name, and Zimmer will capitalize on that. I got the Vikings.
And Green Bay at Cincinnati. I'm going Packers.
Got to. Aaron Rodgers is going to go on a run,
dude. Ever since week 1.
Cincinnati and Joe Burrows have shirked some fight and pulled out some wins. But I just think from what I see, Aaron Rodgers, he's just in Terminator mode, calm Terminator mode, which is even scarier.
Dude, ever since week one, I knew after week one when he gave those post game comments or whatever, or maybe it was on the radio show the next day. You knew it. You just knew like it's kind of like last year, and everyone seems to think it was the drafting of Jordan Love, but that's what put him on a mission. And right. I really think he's doing it again. It's almost like Michael Jordan, where he's got to kind of manufacture some motivation because the game's almost too easy for him. So right. He's got to just find a way to motivate himself. And I think these slights have definitely helped it. And that Monday night game a couple weeks ago, his post-game comments were really telling as well. Like he was on fire. So I'll be hard pressed to pick against him all year, I think.
No, yeah, he's gonna go on a run.
Miami at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay looks very vulnerable. They're winning, but they look very vulnerable. Who you got in this one?
Well, that's what you want if you're Tampa Bay. Peaking at the right time, just like they did last year. Miami looks like they look dysfunctional, quarterback-wise, all-wise, which is sort of surprising from a Belichick disciple. But Flores and Brady have history. If anyone knows how to defend, just like you saw last week with New England, he knows how to make it tough on Tom Brady. He was around Tom Brady for a long time, but I still got to go with Brady. Got to go with Tampa Bay, and got to think that defense is going to show up at some point, and then it's lights out for everyone.
Yep. New England and Houston, I assume we're both going with the Patriots.
Yeah, for sure. With what New England showed me last week, I got to. Yeah. Even though it's on the road, I'm going New England for sure.
New Orleans at Washington. This was a 50-50 for me too. I'm going to go with the Saints on the road, though.
Yeah, who's going to show up? Jameis Winston, what are you going to do? We don't need a lot from you. Could be a heavy Taysom Hill game, which would make Cougar fans happy, and I'd love to see that on Twitter. Yeah, I got the Saints.
Philly at Carolina. I'm going Panthers.
This is one where I took a flyer on.
Interesting.
I took a flyer here on Philadelphia. They've played a hard schedule. They haven't looked great, but they've been somewhat competitive.
True.
You're going on the road. This is kind of the time where you really determine who the Eagles are going to be. And I think Jalen Hurts wants to sort of lay the framework for that he can be the starter. I got Philly.
Tennessee at Jacksonville. Everyone's talking about how the Jets could be the first 0-17 team. Could it be the Jacksonville Jaguars, though?
Urban just adds to his legacy one way or another. 0-17 titles. I don't have much to say. I got Tennessee.
Yeah, same. Your Chicago Bears at the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders look surprisingly good this year. It seems like that defense really kicked it up a notch. Who you got?
Now John Gruden's back, and he wins.
He's full Chucky.
Yep, he's full Chucky mode. I got the Raiders.
Same. Cleveland at the Chargers. This will be a fun game.
It'll be a fun game, and it's a hard one to pick. Baker doesn't look right. Herbert looks awesome. One thing to remember, that defensive line is legit in Cleveland.
It is.
And if they do any one thing well, it's make sure the quarterback is uncomfortable. In the games I've watched of Justin Herbert, he hasn't had too much discomfort. I expect that to change, and consequently, I'm taking Cleveland.
Wow. Okay. I'm taking the Chargers, but here's the thing. For some reason, and I know Justin Herbert's look really good. There's just something I'm not buying into yet, and I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's just that he's young and hasn't proven himself totally. I don't know what it is, but there's something I'm not buying into it yet. That said, I'm still taking the Chargers. Giants at Dallas. Is Dallas legit?
Yeah. I think they are. I think they're going to probably run away with that division, right? Because it's not, at least through the first few weeks, it's not overwhelmingly stocked, right? And yeah, I hate to say it, but yeah, I think Dallas is going to be pretty good. They've sort of found a groove in a way that they hadn't previously. And as long as injuries don't, derail their season like it did last year, they're going to be in the hunt in the NFC. I have Dallas this week for those very reasons.
I do too. At the beginning of the season, if someone was to tell you there will be one undefeated team in the National Football League going into week 5, I don't think anyone would have picked the Cardinals.
No.
And this week they are at home against the Niners. You know what? I'm rolling with the Cardinals. Like I've been skeptical of them. I picked them most weeks, but I've been skeptical of them. I got to keep rolling with them.
Yeah, I'm not. And here's the reason. If there's a team that can slow it down and keep man, the quarterback's name.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray off the field. It's the 49ers. That's what they want. Now I know there's injuries, but don't forget they can call in young Trey to run the ball as well.
Are they going to have a kicker though this week?
I don't know.
That was embarrassing, dude. Like I needed
kick field goals.
This killed me last week. The Niners, because I picked the Niners to beat Seattle, and the fact that they didn't have a kicker screwed me. That was one of the wins you got me on.
One of the ultimate things is, every football player hates a kicker till they suddenly need a kicker.
Yep, it looks so easy until you get the punter out there. Right. So who you got? San Francisco?
Yes, sir.
Buffalo at KC. This should be a great game. KC, Kansas City has not looked great this year, but that's what happens when you got a target on your back, And
they've been loose. They haven't been tight.
Exactly.
They've been loose and not making the plays, and showed moments of brilliance who we know they are, but they've been loose in the other times, and it's cost them some games. I got KC. It's at home. Arrowhead's going to be raging. Yep. Arrowhead is going to be raging. And while, Buffalo's looked decent, they haven't looked exactly like the Buffalo at the end of last year either.
True.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said true.
Yeah, so I got to think KC, like, if it were a lesser team, I would actually think they would be more vulnerable. But because it's Buffalo and a contender in the AFC, you're probably going to get the Chiefs' best effort.
I agree. I'm going to go Chiefs as well. So was it last week or the week before? So every year you typically have a team that you develop an affinity for, and you tend to pick them. And it's been in the past, it's been the Saints, it's been Jacksonville in the past. The Raiders have been one of your teams that you've just kind of developed an affinity for. The other, like a couple of weeks ago, I came to the realization, like somehow, I don't know how it happened. I think I'm a Ravens fan. I don't know what it is. I really love Lamar Jackson. I love Snoop. I love their colors. I love the way they play. For some reason, I find myself rooting for them every single week. Not a conscious decision at all, but I think I'm a Baltimore fan at this point. I don't know if it's going to last.
You pick them a lot?
What's that?
Could it be because you've picked them a lot?
Yeah, I definitely sparked it. There's no doubt about that. Sure. This week, Monday Night Football, they're hosting Indy, and I got the Ravens.
For sure. At least so far, and my hesitation in this is like, is the Carson Wentz project done, or is it going to start paying off, or is this the week where it pays off for 1 week and back to normal next week? I think he's in the lineup, if my memory serves me correctly, and that's sort of my fear. But even if, I think the Ravens defense is good, and I think, look, Lamar Jackson is growing and recognizing he can't, despite some of the other things that I think he needs to recognize, he's definitely recognizing there's a right and wrong way to do it on the field. And while he's having fun and still being himself, when he made that Monday night and did that flip, I was like, dude, no, bro, you're the quarterback. I don't care. Sure, I don't want a star wide receiver to do it, but the quarterback pulls the trigger every play. You're the most important player on the team. And if you were to do a flip somersault in there and fracture your tibia, not only would it look real dumb, it would be extremely detrimental to the Baltimore Ravens' chances of being successful. So let's hope he cleans that up at least.
Well, dude, he fell hard. He landed hard when he did it too.
And the other part is recognize that the Colts defense is good. And in the games they've lost, Lamar Jackson has had turnovers that were weak turnovers, just getting tackled kind of stuff.
That's a hole in his game that he's got to fix, because he has literally everything else. It's the turnovers, and he's got to stay healthy. Those two things, and the healthy thing, that's a tall order considering how he plays. But I will tell you this, I think this is why I like the Ravens so much. I have never had so much fun watching a single player play football because you just never know what he's going to do. And no matter what he does, it's just jaw-dropping. And Patrick Mahomes has that a little bit, but he can't get it done quite as like Lamar Jackson with his legs. You know, Patrick Mahomes has the funky passes and the cool little shovel passes and the cross the body stuff, and that's fun. But Lamar Jackson has all that, plus he can just make guys miss like crazy on the ground. So I think that's what's really drawn me to those guys because it's just so fun to watch him play. I love it when he's on national TV.
Yeah, he's a better version of Michael Vick, right? It harkens back to that.
Yeah.
When we saw Michael Vick in Madden and you were just like, what? Bootleg, I'm running, not even throwing unless he's 30 yards open.
Right.
Like, you know, like I'm running. I have Mike Vick, possibly the best running back quarterback ever in the history of man.
Right.
And he's, I mean, I think he's surpassed that already being an MVP and the deepness that the Ravens have gone. So he's a better version of Michael Vick, which is really scary when you're a defensive coordinator.
It's nuts. And plus, I mean, what a perfect mentor for a guy like Tyler Huntley.
Seriously.
Like that's
no question.
That's how he plays. You could not have put two players on the same squad who play more similarly at quarterback.
Yeah, not only that. I mean, we've all long been very complimentary of the Baltimore Ravens front office, especially when Ozzie Newsome was running it. Like, even if he does get injured, sure, the talent gap is there. But the style of play isn't that much difference where the team will have to completely readjust their playbook.
Right.
It's a perfect scenario. Should Lamar go down with COVID or a worse injury, it's a perfect scenario. So compliments to the front office in Baltimore again.
Dude just got to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
He's had COVID twice now.
I think so.
If that's not a walking billboard for getting vaccinated, I don't know what is. It's ridiculous. All right, man. I think we have 2 differences, 3 differences, something like that. Just enough for me to pick one up on you at least one. I got to, dude. I got to make a dent this week or I'm in trouble.
I know the run's coming. Hopefully I can circle the wagons and hold you at bay for a little while longer.
It's different being in this position. It puts a little bit more pressure on me every week. I don't like this.
Now you know how I felt for 10 years or so.
I think a little bit harder about every one of my picks. It drives me crazy.
That's
man.
the hard part.
It
Don't
is.
do that.
It is. All right. That is going to do it for episode 382. Thanks for joining us, for coming back with us. We are back. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking Jazz basketball and Ute, Cougar, and Aggie football as always. And yeah, so join us then. And we want to know what you think of the show and anything going on in the world of sports and everything going on with your favorite teams. Hit us up. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for making us a part of your day.